Breaking report, ceasefire confirmed. Iran, Israel, and the U.S. navigate fragile peace. In a stunning turn of events, a ceasefire has officially been declared between Iran and Israel following 12 days of intense military escalation that threatened to spiral into a full-scale regional war. The ceasefire, brokered with the involvement of U.S. President Donald Trump, marks a temporary halt to hostilities that claimed hundreds of lives, caused severe material damage, and placed the entire Middle East on high alert. The announcement was first made by President Trump in an early morning press conference, where he stated, "Both parties have agreed to put down arms and prioritize dialogue. This is a victory for diplomacy over destruction, for humanity over hostility." Dual confirmations from Iran and Israel. Following Trump's address, the Israeli government swiftly confirmed its participation in the ceasefire, stating that it had agreed to the U.S.-led proposal in the interest of regional stability. 2 hours later, Iran's Supreme National Security Council issued an official statement affirming Tehran's acceptance of the ceasefire, albeit with caution. This ceasefire was imposed through Iran's strategic resistance. "We are not naive. We remain vigilant," the Iranian statement read, suggesting an underlying skepticism regarding Israel's and the U.S.'s intentions. Iran further warned that its armed forces remain on high alert and will respond decisively to any violations. The missile confusion, a moment of fragility. Shortly after the ceasefire declaration, the Israeli military reported missile launches originating from Iranian territory. The alerts triggered air raid sirens across parts of Israel, prompting civilians to seek shelter. However, Iran categorically denied involvement. State-run media in Tehran broadcasted official denials, asserting that no missiles were launched from Iranian soil. Independent analysis by regional observers suggested no direct evidence tying the reported missiles to Iranian military units. Abbas Saslani, a political analyst based in Tehran, told international media, "There may have been rogue actors or miscommunication within the broader region, but the Iranian government had no involvement." This missile confusion, coming in the immediate wake of a fragile truce, underlined the deep mistrust between the warring parties. While no retaliatory action followed, the moment highlighted just how precarious the peace truly is. Iran's framing of the ceasefire. Victory through resistance. Within Iran, the ceasefire is being portrayed not as a concession, but as a victory. Iranian officials emphasize that their resistance, including calculated missile responses and cyber operations, forced adversaries to seek peace. "This isn't a surrender. This is recognition of Iran's strategic leverage," said Saeed Jalili, a senior advisor to the supreme leader. Israel and the U.S. initiated aggression, and now they are the ones calling for peace. Despite the heavy toll, over 400 casualties, infrastructure damage, and nationwide mourning, the Iranian public appears largely supportive of the government's handling of the crisis. The ceasefire is viewed as a validation of Iran's strength in the face of overwhelming odds. Public sentiment has hardened against both Western capitals and their regional allies. As Abbas Saslani noted, distrust of the West has deepened. But ironically, this also unifies the Iranian people around their leadership. Israel's calculated compliance. On the Israeli side, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed acceptance of the ceasefire in a televised broadcast, but warned against further provocation. "We want peace, but we will defend our people without hesitation," Netanyahu declared. "If Tehran dares to violate this agreement, the consequences will be historic." Israeli analysts believe that despite their military superiority, prolonging the conflict would have only emboldened Iran and drawn international criticism. The sudden ceasefire may have prevented further escalation, especially with Iran's long-range missile capabilities on full display during the confrontation. The Trump factor: peacemaker or opportunist? For U.S. President Donald Trump, the ceasefire deal comes at a politically advantageous time. Facing domestic controversies and dwindling approval ratings, Trump's ability to broker peace in the Middle East adds a feather to his diplomatic cap. Trump framed his involvement as a continuation of his prior successes with the Abraham Accords. "We brought foes to the table before, and we've done it again," he said. "America leads from strength, never weakness." However, some critics argue that Trump's approach was more performative than principled. Leaked diplomatic memos reveal that Trump's administration may have ignored early warnings of escalation, only to intervene once the crisis was ripe for a high-profile resolution. Global reactions and the path forward. International responses have been mixed. Russia welcomed the ceasefire, but warned both sides to respect the terms. France and Germany offered to host follow-up peace talks. China emphasized long-term diplomatic engagement and regional development. Arab League nations cautiously praised the ceasefire, but urged Iran and Israel to avoid future confrontations that risk engulfing the region. Strategic impact and regional shifts. Experts agree that while the ceasefire has prevented a broader war, the underlying issues remain unresolved. Iran's nuclear ambitions remain a red line for Israel. Israel's regional military posture continues to provoke neighboring states. U.S. Middle East policy is perceived as erratic and transactional. The agreement, therefore, acts more like a timeout than a resolution. Media, propaganda, and public perception. Across Tehran, pro-government media have launched a coordinated narrative hailing the ceasefire as a strategic triumph. Images of Iranian missile launches juxtaposed with Trump's press conference create a storyline of defiance and forced diplomacy. In contrast, Israeli media have been more subdued, focusing on the success of Iron Dome defenses and highlighting Netanyahu's measured leadership. American outlets are divided. Right-wing networks celebrate Trump's deal-making prowess, while left-leaning analysts question the sustainability of the truce. Final summary: a fragile peace. As the region exhales in cautious relief, the ceasefire stands as a temporary pause in a long-running saga. The wounds are fresh, the memories raw, and the path forward uncertain. Yet for now, guns have fallen silent. Iran, Israel, and the United States have stepped back from the brink. Whether this is a pivot toward peace or merely a prelude to the next confrontation depends on what the coming weeks bring. But one thing is clear. This moment, brokered by Trump, accepted by rivals, and watched by the world, has redefined the calculus of power, diplomacy, and resistance in the Middle East. Stay with us for live updates, exclusive interviews, and deep-dive analysis on this historic development.